To punish my rebellious streak, my eldest sister, Olivia, deliberately took our driver's son to see the northern lights in Alaska on my 18th birthday, the one trip I'd always dreamed of. She thought it was the best way to teach me a lesson. Later, the driver's son became a permanent fixture in our home, and my other 5 sisters all followed her lead, each trying to outdo the other in their kindness to him. When I was once again punished by being locked in a dark room, accused of being jealous, everyone expected the spoiled, willful little brother to emerge clinging to Olivia for comfort. They thought I'd demand an apology gift from Isabella and play the victim in front of Amelia, Madison, Sophia, and Victoria. But I just went back to my room without a word. The woman who had spoiled me rotten since childhood, yet personally locked me in that room, had a flicker of surprise in her eyes. I knew she was waiting for me to whine and admit I was wrong, but now, I just walked past her, expressionless, becoming the quiet, obedient, perfect brother she always said she wanted. Because I had a secret. I had been reborn. In my previous life, I was the sole son of a powerful tycoon family, showered with affection and raised under the adoring eyes of my 6 older sisters. But when I was 10, our family's driver died saving my life. Out of a sense of obligation, my sisters began treating his son as one of our own. At first, I was grateful to him and didn't mind him sharing my sister's affection. But gradually, everything changed. He stole my senior thesis, and my second sister, Isabella, testified on his behalf, getting me expelled for plagiarism. He had poor health and needed a kidney transplant, and my third sister, Amelia, personally escorted me into the operating room. He wanted the prestige of an international competition title, so Madison, Sophia, and Victoria kicked me off the team without a second thought. I found evidence that he had plagiarized the thesis and forged his medical records, and when I took it to Olivia to expose him, I only incurred their collective wrath. No one believed me. They didn't even bother to look at the evidence. Olivia threw me out of the house to reflect on my actions. After hitting rock bottom on the streets, my heart turned to darkness, and I tried to kill him. I failed, and Olivia had me committed to a mental institution, where the orderlies tortured me relentlessly every day. The next time I opened my eyes, a familiar shout echoed in my ears. "Ethan Hawthorne, will you admit you're wrong or not?" Water flooded my nose and mouth, my throat burning with pain. I blinked open my eyes from a near-death state and saw my second sister, Isabella, on the poolside, along with my fourth sister, Madison, who was cradling Caleb. A flash of bewilderment crossed my face. The scene was eerily familiar. Hadn't I already died? Could it be that I had returned to 3 years ago, to the day Caleb Vance was officially adopted by the Hawthorne family? I remembered it clearly. At the party, Caleb had deliberately framed me, making everyone think I had pushed him into the pool. Madison was the first to notice, but she only rescued Caleb, leaving me, who also couldn't swim, to struggle in the water. Isabella had even demanded to know if I would admit my mistake, strongly implying she wouldn't save me until I did. Back then, I had struggled desperately and begged for my life, only being pulled out at the brink of death. As the memories flooded back, this time, I gave up the struggle and let myself sink to the bottom of the pool. How ridiculous. Their actual brother, was worth less than an outsider. My second sister, Isabella, had been focused entirely on Caleb, only turning to look at the pool when she could no longer hear the sound of my splashing. When she saw I had sunk to the bottom, her face instantly turned deathly pale. "Ethan!" The next second, with a splash, Isabella dove into the water without a moment's hesitation. Caleb, seeing me sink, had a flicker of delight in his eyes, but he feigned weakness and tugged on Madison's sleeve. "Maddie, I have to go save Ethan too. He fell in because of me." Madison was already worried, and hearing this, she quickly comforted him. "Don't be ridiculous. Isabella is enough. Ethan is just reaping what he sowed. He won't die." As she spoke, Madison glanced toward the pool, her expression complicated. Underwater, I watched Isabella swim toward me, her face etched with worry. A sneer formed on my lips as I turned and swam to the surface on my own. In my past life, after this drowning incident, Isabella had forced me to take swimming lessons from Caleb. Although I was left with a deep psychological scar, I overcame my fear and learned, all to make her happy. But in the end, Isabella only praised Caleb for being brave. She never knew that the minute I was deliberately left in the water had caused severe, lasting trauma. Isabella's eyes were only for Caleb. "Ethan, what are you playing at now? Did you think pretending to drown would cover up what you did?" Isabella blocked my path, puzzled as to when I had learned to swim. I looked up at my second sister. I used to adore her the most, but now, her eyes held nothing but disgust and impatience. Just then, Caleb's frail voice drifted over. "Isabella, don't blame Ethan. I know he's never been happy about me joining the Hawthorne family. It was my fault for being too greedy, for daring to dream of having a family. Please don't fight because of me, you're all so important to me. My fourth sister, Madison, glared at me. Are you satisfied now? If his father hadn't died saving you, he wouldn't be an orphan. We never should have saved an ungrateful brat like you. It would have been better if you had died instead. Isabella frowned and said, Ethan, you need to have a conscience. We have to treat Caleb like family. This is what the Hawthorne family owes him, and more importantly, what you owe him. Do you understand? Isabella, if an ungrateful person like him was capable of understanding, he wouldn't have pushed Caleb into the pool, Madison added. Mr. Vance would have been better off saving a dog than saving him. Hearing those words, I felt a chill run through me, as if I were stranded in a desolate wasteland. If I had a choice, I wish I hadn't been saved at all. I suppressed the burning pain in my lungs and spoke with a hoarse voice. You're right, it was my fault. It won't happen again. Ethan, you really did it on purpose? Isabella was deeply disappointed. Don't you know Caleb can't swim? You could have killed someone. She had hoped it was just an accident, but now she was convinced I had deliberately tried to kill him. Just then, the family doctor rushed over. Madison turned to glare at me. You'd better pray nothing is wrong with Caleb. Otherwise, when Olivia gets back, you're going to be in for a world of pain. Isabella took a few steps with them, then looked back and saw me drenched from head to toe, and her expression softened slightly. She said, You should go to your room and change your clothes. The party is about to begin. Only after they had all left did I bend over, coughing violently. I forced down the metallic, sweet taste rising in my throat and dragged myself back to my room. I stared at the bedroom before me, feeling like a stranger in it. In my past life, this bedroom was eventually given to Caleb, and I was forced to move into his small room. A family portrait sat on the desk. In it, a young couple held a baby boy, flanked by 6 little girls. Tragically, just a few years after I was born, my parents died in a car accident. The driver, Mr. Vance, saved me first. When he went back to rescue my parents, the gas tank exploded, and he was killed as well. Caleb was the driver's only son and had been frail and sickly since he was a child. After the accident, my eldest sister, Olivia, brought him to the Hawthorne estate to be raised alongside me. From the moment Caleb appeared, everything changed. My sisters all favored him. Caleb's health is delicate, so I've hired a private chef to cook the meals he likes. Ethan, you need to make sure Caleb finishes his meals. Ethan, you should withdraw from the competition this time and let Caleb, who placed second, represent the school. He's been preparing for a very long time. Caleb's grades aren't great, so you should apply to the same university as him. That way, you can look after him in the future. Thinking about all this, I clutched my head as a sharp pain shot through my heart. In this life, I wanted nothing more to do with the Hawthorne family. I put the photograph away and lowered my head, beginning to pack my things. Before long, a maid knocked on the door. Young Master Ethan, the party has started. Miss Isabella has asked you to get changed and join them. I know. I opened the door and walked straight toward the lively party area. At the party, Caleb was the picture of an innocent and kind boy next door. Isabella and Madison stood beside him, their eyes filled with adoration as they watched him, creating a heartwarming scene. Isabella couldn't help but think of me. If only I could be as well-behaved and sensible as him. In recent years, my own temperament had grown increasingly arrogant and defiant. The moment I appeared, all eyes turned to me. My face was a blank mask. I was wearing a simple t-shirt, but on my head was a limited edition hat worth millions. Around my neck hung a collector's edition necklace worth a fortune. On my wrist was a discontinued Rolex, and I even had a glittering gold belt fastened around my waist. Immediately, whispers of ridicule spread through the crowd. Ethan Hawthorne looks so tacky. He's wearing all his expensive trinkets at once, like someone with new money and no taste. I bet he's wearing all that expensive stuff on purpose, just to show off and make Caleb feel bad. I swaggered right up to Caleb and said in a calm voice, Congratulations. Today, you're finally a member of the Hawthorne family. In my past life, my nightmare began the day Caleb officially joined our family. No matter how I tried to please them or act cute, my sisters always sided with him. Olivia even once said she wished Caleb had been born a Hawthorne. This time, I wouldn't cling to this worthless charade of family affection. Caleb saw all the valuable items I was wearing and was consumed with jealousy, though he didn't let it show on his face. He flinched slightly and answered cautiously, Ethan, I know you're upset, but please don't worry. I won't try to steal our sister's affection from you. After all, I'll always just be an outsider with a different last name. You're their real brother. How could I possibly compare to you? As he spoke, his eyes began to redden. A sarcastic smile touched my lips. What a masterfully pitiful performance. In my past life, I was completely fooled by Caleb's harmless facade, only seeing his true colors right before I died. Seeing this, Madison rushed to his side. Caleb, don't cry. Who said you're an outsider? From this day forward, you are my real brother. Caleb lowered his eyelids, hiding the fleeting look of triumph in his eyes. Isabella produced a box. Caleb, this is a gift for you. Caleb put on a look of being overwhelmed with surprise. Isabella, isn't this gift for Ethan? How could I possibly accept it? I saw the limited edition collectible figure inside the box and wasn't surprised at all. In my past life, Isabella had also kindly made the decision for me, giving the figure I had been waiting for to Caleb as an apology gift. Just take it. He owes it to you, Isabella said, then turned to me. Ethan, even though Caleb has decided not to hold the pool incident against you, and I've already given him a gift on your behalf, where's your show of sincerity? I nodded. I know. I brought apology gifts especially for the occasion. I took off my accessories one by one and arranged them on a nearby tray. This is the limited edition hat from Olivia. This is the collector's necklace from Isabella. This is the rare antique compass from Amelia. This is the Rolex from Madison. This is the belt from Sophia. And this is the gold trophy from Victoria. After arranging them, I said, these things are all very important to me. As apology gifts, this should be sincere enough. I had anticipated Madison would demand an apology. It didn't matter anyway. I knew my sisters would eventually take these gifts back and give them to Caleb. When Madison saw the items on the tray, her expression froze instantly. Isabella pursed her lips and asked, Ethan, what is the meaning of this? Isabella, this is the sincerity of my apology. Madison, do you think it's enough? My expression was placid, showing no emotional fluctuation. Caleb looked astonished. Ethan, these are far too valuable. I can't possibly accept them. Madison snapped angrily. We gave those to you. How could you just turn around and give them to someone else? Caleb's smile faltered, and he mumbled, That's right. How could I ever be worthy? Madison quickly explained, Caleb, that's not what I meant. We'll pick out different gifts for you. Caleb's tears immediately turned into a smile. Thank you, Madison. Isabella sighed in exasperation. Ethan, what kind of tantrum are you throwing now? She knew I had always cherished these gifts, so she assumed I wasn't being sincere. Madison chimed in. He's just venting his frustration. Does he really think we can't see through him? Ethan, when will you ever grow up and be more like Caleb? I remained expressionless. These are worth millions. Is that not a sincere enough apology? Madison, surely you're not reluctant to part with them, are you? Madison was speechless, stammering in front of Caleb. Do you really think I'm that kind of person? Then let everyone here be a witness. These are now his compensation. Isabella said, annoyed. Stop making a scene, Ethan. Isabella, do I look like I'm making a scene? I shoved the tray into Caleb's hands. They're all yours now, I declared, including my 6 sisters. I'm giving them all to you. Caleb's expression was awkward as he held the tray, his palms burning. I didn't wait for him to speak. I just turned and walked away. Ethan Hawthorne, you get back here, a voice shouted, but I didn't look back. Isabella frowned. Ethan is getting more and more out of line. The necklace she had given me held special meaning, and she felt a pang of discomfort. Madison was extremely frustrated. I agree. I think he's doing this deliberately to provoke us. Caleb held the tray and said meekly, Isabella, Madison, I feel like I've done something wrong again. I can't take the things Ethan treasures so much. What should I do? Madison's face was stern. Since they're apology gifts, you just keep them. I bet he'll come to regret this in less than 3 days. She was looking forward to seeing me regret my actions so she could lecture me about it. I went back to my room alone and lay down, my mind racing. I had to figure out how to leave the Hawthorne estate, earn my own money, and live independently. In my past life, my grades after the SATs were good enough for a top-tier university, but because of one comment from Madison, I ended up applying to the same second-rate college as Caleb. At college, I was like his personal caretaker, taking the blame for all his mistakes. If I didn't do as I was told, my bank account would be frozen. As the young master of the Hawthorne family, I lived a life worse than a student on financial aid. In the end, Caleb stole my thesis and I was framed for plagiarism and expelled. This time, I would absolutely not repeat the same mistakes. I was going to get into a top university. I planned to cover my tuition and living expenses by winning prize money from gaming tournaments. With the gaming skills I had from my past life, it should be possible. After the party ended, Isabella came to the second floor and knocked on my bedroom door. There was no response, and the door was locked from the inside. Just then, someone called out, Isabella, I think Caleb has a fever. You should come take a look. Isabella pulled her hand back from the door. Downstairs, she saw Caleb's flushed face and immediately said, I'll get the car. We're going to the hospital right now. Then, she and Madison took Caleb to the hospital. Meanwhile, in my bedroom on the second floor, I lay in bed, my own face flushed and beaded with sweat, trapped in nightmares all night long. The next day, my phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. I opened it to find a flood of hateful messages. News of me supposedly pushing Caleb into the pool last night had spread like wildfire on the school's online forum. Caleb was popular at school, and his fans were righteously indignant, all coming to attack me. My head was throbbing, so I jumped right into the fray, firing back with harsh words. The thread exploded with thousands of replies in an instant. The forum moderators thought the site had been hacked. After I was done, I tossed my phone aside and lay back down. I didn't have to please the Hawthorns anymore. I didn't care about my reputation, and I refused to live a life of frustration. A short while later, a maid knocked. Young Master Ethan, it's time to get up for school, or you'll be late. It was only then that I snapped out of it, splashing my face with cold water to wake myself up. As I came downstairs with my backpack, Isabella and Madison were just walking in from outside. Seeing my face was a bit flushed. Isabella habitually reached out to feel my forehead for a fever. I took a step back, dodging her hand. Isabella's hand froze in midair, and she awkwardly lowered it. Madison scoffed. I told you he's an ungrateful brat. He's strong as an ox, not like Caleb who's been frail since childhood. Caleb caught a cold and got a fever just from falling in the water last night. Ethan would never get sick. Isabella didn't say anything. She walked to the dining table and said, Caleb is sick. You are to take good care of him at school for the next few days. Understand? Madison added, Ethan, Caleb's father saved your life, and you nearly killed his son. You must take good care of him to atone for your sins. I kept my head down and ate my breakfast, thinking about how the SATs were less than 100 days away. After that, I could finally leave the Hawthorne family. Annoyed by my indifference, Madison snatched my fork away. I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? I looked up, my eyes calm. Madison ordered, when Caleb needs to take his medicine, you get him hot water. At lunch, you'll get his food for him and run fast so it doesn't get cold. If he has trouble going to the restroom, you'll go with him. His father saved you, so this is what you owe him. Is that clear? I replied coolly, perfectly clear, but I had no intention of following her orders. I walked out of the mansion with a blank expression, tilting my head back to force back the tears and swallowing the bitterness in my throat. I closed my eyes to rest in the car. Just endure it a little longer. A little longer. Less than 100 days to go. When I got to school, I went straight to my senior year classroom. The once noisy classroom fell silent. The story of me cursing people out on the school forum had already spread, and everyone was starting to think I was mentally unstable. I didn't care. I dropped my bag and slumped onto my desk to sleep, not getting up all morning. When the bell rang for lunch, Caleb came into the classroom with an 4 drip attached to his hand, immediately winning the sympathy and concern of our classmates. I frowned, shifted my position, and went back to sleep. A moment later, someone slammed their hand on my desk. I looked up, annoyed, to see Caleb standing in front of me. His little followers stood beside him, looking displeased. Caleb spoke in a weak voice, Ethan, what do you want for lunch? I can get it for you. Please don't be mad at me anymore, okay? I rejected him coldly. I don't need it. Follower number 1 snapped, Ethan Hawthorne, don't be so ungrateful. Caleb is still sick himself. Yeah, Ethan, you should be the one taking care of Caleb. It's your fault he's sick in the first place. Caleb coughed weakly a couple of times. You guys don't be like that. I can take care of myself. I've always been alone, so please stop. You'll just make him angrier. Caleb, you're just too kind. That's why you get bullied. I was getting impatient and stood up to leave the classroom. Just as I stepped out, Caleb suddenly rushed toward me. The 4 stand he was leaning on toppled over, and he fell right onto the shattered bottle. What a perfect coincidence. The classroom erupted into chaos. The noise made my head ache, and just as I was about to speak, my vision went black, and I passed out. When I woke up, the smell of antiseptic filled my nostrils. I was in the school nurse's office. The school nurse said, a fever of 102.2, and you waited this long to come in. Were you trying to see if a human body could cook itself? I turned my head and saw the new school nurse, Chloe. She was beautiful and had attracted the attention of many male students, but she had a sharp tongue. I heard she wasn't planning on staying for long. I sat up, feeling a bit better. Can I go now? Wait for your family to pick you up. I don't want to be responsible if you drop dead on the way home, Chloe said. sitting casually in her chair. My voice was hoarse. I don't have any family. The words had barely left my mouth when Madison's anxious voice came from outside. Caleb, are you okay? How did you get hurt so badly? Caleb replied, Maddie, it's just a scratch. Please don't blame Ethan. He didn't do it on purpose. I was the one who accidentally knocked over the 4 stand. Follower number 1 added fuel to the fire. That's not what happened. Caleb offered to get lunch for Ethan, and when Ethan refused, he held a grudge and deliberately tripped Caleb. We all saw it. Hearing this, Madison's anger flared. She yelled, Where is Ethan Hawthorne? Get your ass out here. How dare you make a sick person get lunch for you? Our father should have let you die in that car crash, instead of having you live to torture his son. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, a sarcastic smile forming. Just like in my past life, Madison believed every word Caleb said. The next second, the curtain beside me was yanked open violently. I looked up, my face pale, looking utterly sick. When Madison saw me, the words she was about to say caught in her throat. I lowered my head and covered my mouth, starting to cough violently. My back was thin, and as I hunched over, it looked like I was about to cough up a lung. Madison's tone was harsh. Don't think you can get away with faking sick to look weak. I'll still teach you a lesson. I told you to take care of Caleb at school, to get him water and food, and what do? You make a sick person get food for you. It's bad enough you were ungrateful, but you even tripped him on purpose. Have you no conscience? I suppressed my coughs. I didn't push him, Are you going to say that Caleb lost his balance and fell on his own? Do you think I'd believe such a pathetic excuse? Admit it, you did this on purpose, didn't you? My eyes stung, and I straightened my back. I won't admit to it. A sharp slapping sound echoed as a hand struck my face, a fiery pain instantly spreading across my cheek. But no matter how much my face hurt, it was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. I was numb to it. Madison, what are you doing hitting him? Isabella strode in and grabbed Madison's arm. Isabella, he did something so vicious and still won't admit it. I don't have a cruel, unrepentant monster for a brother. Caleb stood at the doorway, his hand wrapped in gauze, looking utterly pitiful. With red-rimmed eyes, he said, Madison, I already told you it was my fault. It has nothing to do with Ethan. Caleb, you're just too kind. I have to teach Ethan a lesson today, or he'll never learn. Just as Madison was about to strike again, Chloe scraped her chair back, the sound screeching across the floor. I looked over at the sound. Chloe was leaning against the desk, her expression blank, her eyes cool and detached. Are you the student's family? Isabella nodded. Yes, we're his sisters. He has a fever of 102.2, a possible infection that needs further testing, and he's also hypoglycemic and somewhat malnourished. Madison was taken aback. He's really sick? She had assumed I was faking it to avoid responsibility. Chloe's voice was unhurried. In that case, you should probably get your eyes checked if you couldn't see something so obvious. Madison was speechless for a moment. What's that supposed to mean? Chloe frowned, her voice cold. It means what it says. Even if he's just your family's foster brother, since you took him in, you have a responsibility to care for him. When I heard the words foster brother, a hint of mockery appeared in my eyes. Isabella quickly explained, he's my biological brother, not adopted. Chloe raised an eyebrow. You'd need a magnifying glass to tell. If you hadn't identified yourselves as his family, I was about to call the police. Madison saw my swollen face and said defensively, What do you know? I was teaching him a lesson. Isabella was silent. She had also assumed I was perfectly healthy and wouldn't get sick from a simple fall into the water like Caleb. Madison looked at Chloe with disdain. You don't know him. Ethan has a habit of faking sickness to avoid responsibility. This time, he even deliberately hurt Caleb. Caleb's father died saving him, and sometimes I really want to cut his heart open just to see if it's black. My throat was burning, and though I wanted to defend myself, I ultimately said nothing. It would be useless even if I did. They wouldn't believe me anyway. Caleb bit his lip and said, This is all my fault. I shouldn't have been so clumsy, and I shouldn't have pushed myself to try and get lunch for Ethan. It is indeed your fault, Chloe stated, her eyes cold. If you're sick and on in 4, you shouldn't have been in the classroom. Knowing you're ill, you shouldn't be making trouble for others. Don't act like being weak makes you right. My eyes widened in an instant, and I stared blankly at the sharp-tongued school nurse before me. She was actually speaking up for me. Did she believe me? My eyes immediately started to sting. Even a complete stranger could see the logic, but my own sisters couldn't. Or rather, they understood perfectly well. They were just biased toward Caleb and chose not to understand. Caleb's expression froze. What was this nurse's problem? Didn't she see that he was sick and still trying to get lunch for Ethan? Why wasn't she moved by his kind-hearted gesture? Why was she defending Ethan instead? This wasn't right. This trick always worked for him. Caleb was speechless for a long moment, finally lowering his head with a pitiful expression. Madison stepped forward to defend Caleb. Caleb came to class even though he's sick because the SATs are less than 100 days away, and he can't afford to fall behind. He was just trying to be nice and smooth things over with Ethan, but some people are just ungrateful. I found it incredibly ironic. This morning, Madison had ordered me to wait on Caleb's hand and foot at school. Wouldn't doing all that interfere with my studies? So she did know the SATs were less than 100 days away. It was just that my exams were less important than Caleb's. Isabella spoke up. Madison, take Caleb home to rest and recover. Isabella, are you not listening to me either? Madison fell silent and left with Caleb. The nurse's office became quiet again. Isabella frowned. Ethan, if you don't want to take care of Caleb, fine. But you are never to do something like this again. I kept my head down. My throat was in agony, and I didn't want to say another word. I pulled the blanket over my head, wanting to block them out completely. Ethan, if you keep acting like this, I can't protect you anymore. Isabella was getting annoyed now and reached out to pull the blanket off. You need to explain yourself. We are going to talk about this today. Caleb cannot continue to be hurt like this. Chloe placed a hand on Isabella's arm, her gaze cool. He can't leave until this 4-drip is finished. The family can wait outside. Chloe's gaze was proud and cold, carrying an authority that was impossible to refuse. I looked up in astonishment, staring at her back as she stood in front of my sister. Isabella didn't back down. I'm his sister. I'm taking him home. We have a doctor at home. If you have a doctor at home, why did you let his fever get this high for so long? Seeing my pale face, Isabella answered guiltily. He didn't say he was sick. Besides, she had tried to check my forehead this morning, and I was the one who dodged her hand. Could she blame me? In her mind, I was probably just dragging out my illness to avoid responsibility. Chloe's voice was sharp with displeasure. Ma'am, if you try to remove him by force, I will call the police. I'm his biological sister. I'm his legal guardian. And yet, I just witnessed your other brother assault him, and we have security footage as evidence. I'm confident the police will make an appropriate judgment. Chloe was calm and composed, not yielding an inch. He doesn't want to go with you right now, and you have no right to force him. A tremor went through my heart, and I stole a glance at the woman standing protectively in front of me. The room was quiet. I opened my mouth, but in the end, I didn't say a word. Words felt meaningless at this moment. After all, I had explained myself countless times before, and my sisters never believed me. Isabella looked at me with disappointment. If you continue to be this stubborn, even I won't be able to protect you when Olivia gets back. Think about that. With that, Isabella left. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding and leaned back against the headboard. My eyes held a self-deprecating glint. What was there to think about? Should I think about bowing my head and carefully trying to please them like in my last life, only to end up being thrown out of the house and dying a miserable death in a mental institution? I refused. Here, an ice pack wrapped in gauze appeared in front of me. I took it and stole a glance at the woman beside me. Thank you for what you did just now, she asked softly. Why didn't you explain? A bitter smile crossed my face. Would you believe me? I've explained so many times before. I've even presented evidence, but they never believe me. They just think I'm lying. The room fell silent for a moment. It's hard not to believe. My heart skipped a beat. She actually believed what I said. Chloe took a step forward and placed her hand on my forehead. Your temperature is coming down. I froze. Her hand was a little cool and it felt nice. I looked at her wrist. The scar on your hand, is that from a car accident too? Chloe's hand flinched, and she quickly pulled it back. She removed the empty 4 bag, and after a long pause, she answered, yes, a car accident. She leaned against the edge of the desk, her back to me. Her profile was silhouetted against the light, making her expression hard to read. I have one too on my leg. I pulled up my pant leg a bit. Right here. Does it look like your scar? Chloe turned and saw the scar on my thigh. A scar like that can be treated. Why haven't you had it removed? The expression on my face faded, and a dull ache spread through my chest. Because my third sister, Amelia, told me this scar represented our parents' existence, and that she would personally help me get it treated when she had the time. And I believed her. But in the end, Amelia looked at the scar on my leg with disgust, saying she hated it, that she would never treat it, that I was the one who caused our parents' death, and that the scar was my brand. I was devastated at the time, and I even started to believe that I really had killed my parents, which made me act even more subservient and eager to please my sisters. Remembering this made it hard to breathe, but I couldn't bring myself to explain the reason now, so I asked back, "What about you? Why haven't you treated yours?" "I'm a woman, it doesn't matter. A young master like you should probably get it fixed." I forced a difficult smile. "Maybe later." Seeing my head was bowed, Chloe didn't press the issue. She sat down beside me and turned on the TV. I noticed the screen was showing a video game livestream, and it was a tournament my sixth sister, Victoria, was currently competing in. Victoria had missed Caleb's party for this very competition, but in the end, she lost. She lost to the young lady from the Sterling family of Boston. I remembered in my past life, after Victoria lost the match, her opponent had taunted her mercilessly. When Victoria came back, she was furious and immediately reformed the family's esports team. It was Isabella, Madison, Sophia, Victoria, and me. Although we failed in the qualifiers, there was still a redemption bracket. They fought their way back through the redemption bracket and, in the national finals, faced the Sterling family's team again. At that time, I spent countless hours training every day, studying the playstyles of every member of the Sterling team. Thankfully, we managed to beat them in the finals. Caleb wasn't part of the main roster because he had no talent for gaming. He was just a substitute who never got to play. That's why I loved the feeling of fighting alongside my sisters in the game. There were no outsiders to disturb our family. I was so focused on this esports tournament that I even neglected studying for my SATs. But after we won a crucial game with the championship title within our grasp, my sisters called for a substitution. I was taken out and Caleb was sent in to play. In the end, they won the match and became the national champions. My sisters stood on the first-place podium with Caleb, basking in the glory of a victory built on my hard work. Caleb stood in the middle of my sisters, clutching the trophy that should have been mine, a blissful smile on his face. As I watched the game on the TV screen, I felt like a hole had been torn in my heart, one that could never be mended. "What are you crying for? This isn't some soap opera. Is it really that moving?" I snapped back to reality and wiped the tears from my face. I had gotten lost in memories of my past life and lost control of my emotions. A tissue appeared in front of me. The woman's fingers were long and elegant. I took the tissue, feeling a little embarrassed as I looked at her. "Do you play this game? Kid, your most important task right now is to study for your exams, not play video games." Chloe leaned back lazily in her chair, her eyes fixed on the match, not even glancing at me. I turned my attention back to the screen and said seriously, "Team Nova is going to lose." Team Nova was my sister Victoria's team. A small smile played on Chloe's lips, and her voice was unhurried. "Looks like you've got a good eye." When the match ended, Team Nova had lost, just as expected. I saw on the live stream that my sixth sister, Victoria, looked absolutely furious. She even smashed her keyboard. Victoria always had a volatile temper. Seeing Victoria lose, I actually felt a little happy. When she got back, she would definitely reorganize the team. I made a secret vow. This time, I wouldn't play for the Hawthorne family. I would fight for myself, become a professional player, earn money for college, and support myself. After the live stream ended, Chloe glanced over at me, then came to my side to remove the 4 needle. She pressed a cotton swab to the back of my hand. "You can go now. Thanks." I took a taxi back to the Hawthorne estate. As I walked into the main hall, I could hear Caleb's voice, and it sounded like they were all having a wonderful time. But the moment I appeared, the atmosphere grew tense. I walked through the hall with a blank face, planning to go straight to my room. Madison's voice boomed, "Ethan Hawthorne, stop right there. You come home and don't even greet your elders? Is this your attitude now? Don't think you have a protector just because some school nurse threatened to call the police. Without the Hawthorne family, you are nothing." The more Madison spoke, the angrier she got, and she stood up abruptly. "You think we're biased toward Caleb, but you won't even look at the terrible things you've done to him. His father died for you, and we're just helping you repay that debt." I was exhausted just listening to her. I stopped and looked toward the sofa. "Isabella, Madison, I'm home. Is that a good enough greeting for you?" Isabella said, "It's time for dinner. You guys go ahead. I'm not hungry." After I said that, I turned and went upstairs. "Isabella, look at his attitude. He's getting more and more out of control." Caleb spoke up, "Madison, please don't be angry. It's all my fault. Maybe if I left the Hawthorne family, Ethan wouldn't be so upset." "Don't be ridiculous. If anyone's leaving, it's him. Why should you have to go?" The conversation faded behind me. I quickened my pace back to my room, locked the door, and leaned against it for a long moment, forcing my tears back before they could fall. This time, I wouldn't cling to this worthless sibling bond. The next day, I went to school as usual. Caleb rode in the same car with me. Caleb looked at me cautiously. Ethan, are you still angry? Caleb, don't you ever get tired of acting all the time? I closed my eyes, feigning sleep, not wanting to deal with him. A shadow passed over Caleb's eyes, but the driver was in the car, so he habitually put on a pitiful expression and then looked up at the driver with a small, sad smile. When I got home from school that evening, I saw my sixth sister, Victoria, sitting on the sofa with a foul expression on her face. Caleb ran over to her with a charming smile. Victoria, you're back. I've missed you so much. Victoria had been in a bad mood, but after Caleb flattered her for a bit, her expression softened. I glanced at their interaction and turned to go upstairs. Victoria looked up and called out, Madison said you've become more and more disobedient, and I didn't believe her at first, but now you won't even call me by my name. I sighed, exasperated. Here we go again. Not wanting to waste any more time, I turned around and obediently greeted her. Victoria, that's more like it. By the way, I'm back to rebuild the sports team. Isabella and Madison have already agreed. You're joining too. My hand tightened on my backpack strap. There it was. In my past life, Victoria had said the exact same thing. This time, I would absolutely not make the same mistake again. My gaze was firm. Victoria, I want to focus completely on studying for my exams. I don't want to play games. I directly refused Victoria's proposal. No, to be precise, it was an order. Victoria's words weren't a discussion. They were a notification. Ethan, did I hear you correctly? You're actually refusing my invitation. Victoria's expression turned sour. After all, for years, I had been completely obedient to her, never once defying her wishes. I answered, neither servile nor arrogant. If it's an invitation, then I'm allowed to refuse. I looked at Victoria directly, watching as her expression soured, clearly feeling embarrassed and put on the spot. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Victoria said angrily, Ethan, you'd better think carefully before you answer. Don't throw a tantrum, or you'll come crying and begging me for a chance when I refuse to give you one. She had heard from Madison about what had happened over the past few days. I had even, in a fit of pique, used the gold trophy she gave me as an apology gift to Caleb. That trophy was from the year she won her first championship as a pro player. It was incredibly meaningful to her. How dare I just give it away? Caleb gently tugged on Victoria's sleeve. Victoria, please don't be angry. Joining your team is a dream come true for me. I'm sure Ethan will come around and agree eventually. It would have been better if Caleb had said nothing. His words instantly stoked the fire of Victoria's anger. She felt I was being ungrateful and audacious for daring to refuse her. Victoria stared at me menacingly. You only get one chance. Decide right now. Are you joining our family's team or not? I suddenly found the situation a little amusing. So, Victoria was just a paper tiger, easily manipulated by Caleb. Caleb feigned concern. Ethan, you should just agree quickly. Don't make Victoria angry. I looked over at him. Caleb, since it's your dream to join the team, I'll give my spot to you. After saying that, I went back to my room. I took out my backpack and started on my homework. I was rusty on a lot of the material. I worked until a maid knocked on the door. Young Master Ethan, it's time for dinner. Just bring it up to me. But Miss Isabella and the others are waiting for you in the dining room. That was her way of saying I wasn't allowed to eat in my room alone. I gripped my pen tightly. Realizing I was still under the Hawthorns' control, I knew I had to play along for now. I got up and went to the dining room. Isabella, Madison, Victoria, and Caleb were sitting at the dining table. Because the Hawthorn family was so large, we used a long banquet table. I went straight to the seat at the farthest corner and silently began to eat. The atmosphere in the dining room was a bit heavy. But soon, the sound of Caleb's charming laughter broke the tension and lightened the mood. Victoria glanced at me and said pointedly, Caleb, after dinner, we'll personally teach you how to play. You're so smart, I'm sure you'll learn quickly. You won't be any worse than certain other people. A flash of delight appeared in Caleb's eyes. Victoria, I'll work hard. I definitely won't hold you back. I heard their words but remained completely unfazed. It was fine if Caleb joined. When they failed in the redemption bracket, Victoria would lose her chance to compete for good. I kept my head down and ate, not once looking at the happy group on the other side of the table, nor did I pout or throw a tantrum like I used to, because now I simply didn't care anymore. I calmly finished my meal, stood up, and looked over at them. I'm done. Enjoy your meal. If I didn't say anything, I'd probably get another lecture. Isabella looked up, surprised not to see me acting jealous or throwing a fit, but instead appearing much colder. Isabella's heart softened, and she said, Ethan, are you really not going to join the family team? You have a real talent for gaming. We could all work together as a family and win the championship. She was offering me an out. When I heard the words "as a family," I found it utterly absurd. In my past life, I had believed that too. But in the end, on the eve of our championship victory, I was replaced by Caleb. What kind of family was that? I answered decisively, "I'm not joining the team. I want to study hard and prepare for my exams," Victoria said sarcastically. "But before, when you were begging me to teach you how to play, pestering me to train with you at night, and saying you wanted to be on the main roster, you didn't say anything about studying hard then, did you?" My heart ached faintly. The only reason I had pestered Victoria to play games was to get closer to her, to have more things to talk about. As for now, there was no need for that. I replied, "It's because playing games before hurt my studies. My scores on the last monthly exam dropped quite a bit, which is why I don't want to play anymore." Victoria was rendered speechless. "Fine, just don't regret it. When the tournament starts, outsiders will only see Caleb, and they'll think he's the real Hawthorne. Since you're so ungrateful, then forget it. I don't need you anyway." That sounds great. I didn't want to waste any more words, so I turned and left the dining room. After returning to my room, I composed myself and started to seriously tackle my homework, refamiliarizing myself with the concepts I had forgotten. The next day after school, Caleb and I walked out to the school gate, one after the other. The driver was waiting outside. Caleb stood in front of the car and said, "Oh, by the way, I have to go to the training camp today, so the driver needs to take me there first." How convenient that it wasn't on the way. The driver said with a stern face, "Young Master Ethan, I received a call from Miss Victoria. I have to take Mr. Caleb to his destination first. We can't afford any delays." I replied nonchalantly, "I'll just get a taxi home." Caleb got into the car, a hint of excitement on his face. "Ethan, I'll try to talk to Victoria about this later." I turned and walked away, leaving Caleb to stare at the back of my head. Caleb watched my retreating figure and secretly bit his lip. "Ethan Hawthorne, just you wait. One day, I will take everything from you. This is what you owe me." I stood by the roadside, bored and suddenly reluctant to go back to the Hawthorne estate. Maybe I should find a study hall near the school. "Kids, school's out. What are you doing loitering on the street instead of going home?" I turned around and saw a beautiful woman. I was stunned for a second, and it was only when our eyes met that I recognized her. It was the sharp-tongued school nurse. She usually wore a mask and a white lab coat, so I almost didn't recognize her in her regular clothes. Chloe stood in front of me. "I asked you a question. I don't want to go back right now. I was thinking of finding a study hall to do my homework. Follow me." I watched her back for a moment, hesitated, then followed her. I followed her to the school's nurse's office. Standing at the door, I asked, "What are we doing here?" "I'm all better now." Chloe tapped the desk. "It's quieter and safer here than a public study hall." I thought about it and realized she had a point. I put down my backpack. "Then I'll be imposing." I took out my textbooks and materials and began to seriously work on my assignments. Chloe glanced at me, then went into the outer consultation room, closing the door behind her. By the time I looked up again, I realized it was already getting late. I saw a nameplate on the desk with the sharp-tongued nurse's photo on it. So her name was Chloe. "Have you stared long enough?" I was caught red-handed and blushed as I put the nameplate back. I wasn't snooping, I just happened to see it. "Is your homework done?" "There are a few problems I couldn't solve. I'll ask the teacher tomorrow." Chloe walked over to me and pulled my notebook away. "You can't even solve something this simple." I felt a little discouraged and looked down at my textbook. I wasn't serious about my studies before. I let other things distract me. "Listen up, I'm only going to explain this once." Chloe took a pen and began writing on a piece of scratch paper, explaining the problem as she solved it. I looked at the woman in front of me, a complex mix of emotions welling up inside. Because of Caleb, I had no friends, and even the teachers didn't particularly like me. No one had ever voluntarily explained a problem to me before. Chloe's expression was detached. "With an attention span like yours, do you spend all of class daydreaming?" I quickly snapped back to focus and said quietly, "I'm sorry, I'll pay attention." Seeing my obedient demeanor, Chloe patiently continued her explanation. "Is your brain a straight line? Can't you think laterally? This uses the same method as the last problem. This question has such a simple misdirection, and you couldn't see it? Are your eyes just for decoration? Have you ever had your IQ tested to see if it's below average? Do it again." Her voice was cold and direct, but her insults were sharp and unambiguous. Luckily, I already knew she was a sharp-tongued nurse, or I would have broken down long ago. In the end, I managed to persevere. I packed up my finished homework. "Thank you, Chloe. You're amazing for still remembering all of this." Chloe twirled her pen, her gaze scrutinizing. Your family didn't hire a tutor for you? I pressed my lips together. I don't want to owe them anything. Tutoring is expensive, and I don't have any money right now. I didn't want to ask the Hawthorns for anything. Chloe looked at my pale profile, my lowered eyelashes hiding my emotions. I cautiously looked up. Chloe, if I have questions in the future, can I come and ask you? The woman turned her head away, her tone slightly unnatural. I'm busy. Even after being rejected, I didn't get angry. I just obediently packed my bag. Chloe tapped the desk, then turned her head and added, It depends on my mood. A smile spread across my face. Thank you, Chloe. No, thank you, teacher. Without waiting for her to react, I grabbed my bag and ran. Chloe half closed her eyes, a lazy smile playing on her lips. Oh well, she could consider it a way to pass the time. By the time I got home, it was already dark. The butler came forward and said, The young ladies and Mr. Caleb are out for a dinner party. They won't be back for dinner. I went to the dining room to eat by myself, enjoying a rare moment of peace and quiet. I opened my phone and, as expected, saw Caleb's new Facebook post. He was having a lavish dinner with my sisters. I saw all my sisters in the photo, smiling adoringly at the camera. I glanced at it for a second, then closed the app and went back to eating my meal. The next day, I got up and went to the dining room for breakfast. None of my sisters were there yet, only Caleb. He boasted subtly, I made a lot of progress at the team training yesterday. I sat further down the table, eating with a blank expression, ignoring him completely. Caleb was in a good mood and didn't seem to mind my coldness. He probably thought that while I looked calm on the surface, I was secretly fuming inside. I finished my breakfast in a few bites and walked out. The driver, however, stood by the car without moving. Mr. Caleb isn't out yet. We have to wait for him. I sat in the car and waited for over 10 minutes, but Caleb still hadn't appeared. I glanced at the time, feeling annoyed. If he didn't come soon, we were going to be late. I was finding everything about the Hawthorne family more and more unbearable. Just as I was about to open the door and leave, Madison came out. What's the big deal about waiting a little longer for Caleb? His father saved your life, he didn't just abandon you. And now you don't even have the patience to wait a few minutes for his son. My hand gripped the door handle tightly. Just when I felt I couldn't take it anymore, Caleb finally sauntered out. He jogged over, apologizing as he came. I'm so sorry. I was just discussing the tournament with Victoria and the others and completely lost track of time. Madison said calmly, It's fine. You're contributing to the family, which is more than can be said for certain ungrateful brats. The driver's tone was gentle. Don't worry, I'll just drive a little faster. But we were still late in the end. We ran to the classroom door, only to be caught by our homeroom teacher, Mr. Harrison. Caleb was pale and panting heavily. I'm so sorry, sir. It's all my fault. I wasted time and made Ethan late too. I stood there with a stern face and said nothing. Mr. Harrison glanced at both of us, then smiled kindly at Caleb. I understand. No need for so many explanations. You can go on in. Thank you, sir. I started to follow him inside, but Mr. Harrison's stern voice stopped me. Ethan Hawthorne, don't you drag Caleb down with you again. This is your only warning. I turned back. Sir, Caleb just made it very clear that he was the one who made me late. That's enough. Do you think I don't know what your usual behavior is like? If you argue any further, you can spend the class standing outside. I didn't want to miss the lecture. I was already far behind. I walked into the classroom in silence, my mood soured. I wished the exams would come sooner so I could finally be free of them. During the lunch break, a crowd gathered around Caleb, listening to him talk about the professional esports team, their faces full of envy. One of his followers looked at me and said, Someone was probably jealous of Caleb and deliberately made them late. A smile played on Caleb's face, and he offered no further explanation. I put my head on my desk to rest, ignoring the whole group. After school, Caleb shot me a look of feigned superiority. I silently packed my books and walked out of the classroom with my backpack. Caleb watched my retreating back with a triumphant smirk. He turned to his followers and said, Today's homework, same as usual. Do it for me, and don't let the teacher find out. Don't worry, you go chase your dream at the training camp. We'll definitely cover for you. Thanks, guys. I'll make it worth your while. Caleb left in high spirits. This time, he was determined to crush me under his heel. He would be the most worthy brother of the Hawthorne family. I walked straight to the nurse's office with my backpack. Chloe was sitting in her chair, her elegant face holding a hint of playful mockery. What's up? Hey, I'm here to do my homework. Please take me in. I walked in like I owned the place, just hoping she wouldn't kick me out. Chloe seemed surprised by how comfortable I was. She probably thought I was too timid and cowardly to come back. But when I asked Chloe a question, I still got scolded. Is your brain a sieve? Does everything I pour in just leak right out? Don't ask me simple questions in the future. Figure them out yourself. I didn't argue back, just obediently took notes on everything. The room was quiet. Then, my stomach rumbled loudly. My face turned bright red. Chloe glanced at the time and ordered some takeout. Let's eat first. I sat across from her and saw the scar revealed on her wrist. I couldn't help but ask, when did you have your car accident? Was it serious? Chloe silently opened the takeout containers and placed them on the table. She looked at me, her eyes hazy. She said, many years ago. Me too. My parents also died in that car accident, leaving me and my sisters to fend for ourselves. I thought about how much I used to rely on my sisters, and a self-mocking glint appeared in my eyes. After our parents died, we went through some hard times together, and back then, our relationship was very strong. But ever since Caleb showed up, everything changed. Chloe's hand tightened around her chopsticks. So what are your plans now? I plan to get into Stanford, leave the city, and start a new life. You talk big. With your current grades, you have almost no chance of getting into Stanford. There's still plenty of time left. I'll work hard. Chloe's gaze rested on me for a moment before she looked down, her voice cool. Just don't ask such simple questions in the future. I smiled. That meant I could keep asking her questions. For the next several days, I spent every afternoon in the nurse's office after school, not leaving until I had finished all my homework. Meanwhile, Caleb, busy with his gaming practice, started becoming inattentive in class during the day, even falling asleep. Of course, as a teacher's favorite, he just claimed he wasn't feeling well, and the teachers let it slide. I saw Caleb showing off photos from the training camp on his Facebook and posting videos of himself playing alongside my sisters in the game. Their in-game names all followed a matching theme. The names were the same as in my past life, only this time I wasn't a part of it. Not focusing on your homework, and you're thinking about games already? Chloe walked up beside me and saw the game video on my phone. I shook my head. No, I was just browsing. The most important thing for me right now is studying. The monthly exams are next week. If you can get into the top 100 in the grade, I'll allow you to play games. I looked up and smiled. In that case, will you play with me, teacher? I knew Chloe played this game too. Chloe lowered her gaze, her profile as beautiful as ever. She said, I haven't played in a long time. We'll talk after you make the top 100. You have a deal. I watched Chloe's retreating back. I had to get into the top 100. Chloe acted like she was a pro, and I suddenly found myself looking forward to it. I went home after finishing my homework, but when I walked into the hall, I saw my second sister, Isabella, sitting on the sofa. My heart skipped a beat. Why was she back so early? Weren't my sisters supposed to be at the training camp these past few days, usually coming home very late? Isabella looked up, her tone serious. Where have you been? Why are you back so late? My heart was in my throat. She couldn't find out I was doing homework in the nurse's office. I didn't want to lose the one place where I felt a sliver of comfort. I looked down at the floor. I went to a public study hall. There are more people there, so it's a better atmosphere for studying. Give me your backpack. I handed it to her. I watched as Isabella opened my notebooks and saw the densely packed notes and my error correction log. After looking through them, she had a suspicious expression. The butler had reported to her that I hadn't been coming home on time for the past few days, and he didn't know where I was going. She hadn't expected me to actually be studying. Isabella put the backpack down. Ethan, we need to talk. Isabella, what do you want to talk about? Isabella looked at the quiet boy in front of her and suddenly felt that I had changed a lot, though she couldn't quite put her finger on what was different. In the past, I would have been crying pitifully, maybe even tattling. But now I said nothing. She felt like I was becoming more and more uncontrollable. Isabella said, Caleb has been improving very quickly recently. If you trained with him, you would definitely improve too. You have a lot of talent. You could just spend a little time at the training camp without it affecting your studies. Wouldn't it be nice for us to be a complete family? Olivia would be so happy to see us getting along when she gets back. My eyes filled with scorn. I don't want to join the team. Caleb is a member of our family, and so are you. We should advance and retreat together, not have you ostracizing him like this. After all, his father saved your life. Isabella just didn't understand. She had given me so many chances, so why couldn't I just take them? The only reason they were so good to Caleb was to repay the debt on my behalf. The hall was silent, and the stagnant air felt so heavy I could barely breathe. I clenched my fists, unable to hold it in any longer. I spoke sarcastically, Isabella, would you only be satisfied if I gave my life to Caleb as repayment? Isabella shouted. Ethan Hawthorne, listen to yourself. Are we asking for your life? We're doing all this so you and Caleb can get along. Is that simple thing too much to ask? How long are you going to keep throwing this tantrum? Hearing Isabella's words, all the pent-up questions I had wanted to ask just vanished into thin air, felt pointless. I silently gathered my textbooks from the coffee table. Isabella, if there's nothing else, I'm going back to my room. Unable to do anything about me, Isabella angrily grabbed her keys from the table and stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. Watching the car drive away, I figured she was heading to the training camp. After taking a shower, I reviewed my error correction log one more time. I had to work hard to get out of here. I accidentally stayed up all night studying. In a hurry, I packed my bag, ran downstairs to grab a sandwich from the kitchen, and rushed out the door. Isabella was the first one downstairs. She watched my retreating figure and asked the butler, "Why is Ethan up so early? Has he been taking his own car to school these past few days?" The butler quickly replied, "Young Master Ethan hasn't been riding with the driver. On Monday, Mr. Caleb was delayed discussing matters with you all, which made them late. The young master has been upset about it and hasn't taken the car since." Isabella's expression grew complicated. Just then, Victoria came downstairs, yawning. "Isabella, Ethan is just putting on a show for you to make you feel sorry for him. If you give in this time, he'll only get worse in the future." In the end, Isabella didn't say anything more. She also felt it was time I learned a hard lesson. On the second floor, Caleb overheard their conversation, a smile glinting in his eyes, and then he cheerfully skipped down the stairs. "Isabella, Madison, Victoria, good morning. Let's have breakfast together." Seeing Caleb's bright and cheerful demeanor, Isabella's mood improved considerably. At least this brother hadn't gone astray. When I got to school, I was a bit drowsy after pulling an all-nighter, but I still paid close attention in class, afraid of missing any important information. During class, the teacher suddenly called on Caleb to answer a question. Caleb stammered for a while but couldn't come up with the answer. The teacher sighed. "Caleb, you've been very distracted lately. You haven't mastered the review material, and you're going to suffer on the exam." Caleb blushed. "I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again." Seeing this, one of his followers quickly spoke up. "Sir, Ethan has been studying really hard lately. I'm sure he knows the answer." Now all eyes were on me, most of them waiting to see me make a fool of myself. After all, my grades were usually worse than Caleb's, so it was unlikely I could answer it either. But amidst the gloating expressions of my classmates, I stood up and answered the question clearly and correctly. The teacher was surprised. "That's correct. Ethan has been very diligent lately. Everyone should learn from his example." Caleb shot me a secret, hateful glare. Being praised put me in a much better mood. After school, I didn't go to the nurse's office this time. I went straight back to the Hawthorne estate. I was afraid Isabella would get suspicious, so I had to be more careful. Sure enough, when I got back, the butler kept staring at me, which made me very uncomfortable. After dinner, I went straight to my room. I only relaxed after I locked the door. While doing my homework, I took out my phone. I debated whether or not I should message Chloe, since I hadn't gone to see her today. I put my phone down and went back to my homework. Before long, my eyelids grew heavy. I planned to just rest my head on the desk for a minute, but I accidentally fell asleep. The next day, I was woken up by my alarm. I glanced at the time. How was it morning already? I gathered my homework and rushed downstairs to get to school. At lunchtime, after a moment of hesitation, I headed to the nurse's office. But Chloe wasn't there. I mustered up my courage and asked the nurse on duty, "Where's Chloe?" "She went out for lunch." I nodded. I decided to come back and look for her after school. When I went to the nurse's office again after school, Chloe still wasn't there. It was the same nurse from earlier. The nurse looked at me and said, "Young man, I'm on duty today. You should focus on your studies and not think about these other things. It's too early for you." My face flushed red, but I didn't bother to explain. For the next few days, I secretly went to the nurse's office, but I never saw Chloe. I felt a wave of disappointment. I guess I had gotten used to her being there. I realized I was starting to depend on Chloe. I quickly reined in my emotions. I absolutely could not rely on anyone else. In this life, I had to rely on myself. I calmed myself down and threw all my energy into preparing for the upcoming monthly exam. Couldn't lose. After the exam, I felt I had done pretty well. I should be able to make it into the top 100. However, everyone else was complaining that the test had been difficult. I took out my phone and opened my iMessage chat with Chloe, but in the end, I didn't know what to send. It felt like we weren't that close, and I was terrible at navigating relationships. I irritably shut off my phone. I packed my bag, feeling much better. When I got home, the living room was bustling with activity. All my sisters were back. Surprisingly, they hadn't gone to the training camp. The moment I appeared, the room fell quiet, as if I were the unwelcome guest who had interrupted the happy family moment between my sisters and Caleb. I stopped and said in a polite, distant tone, "Isabella, Madison, Victoria, I'm home." I knew that if I didn't greet them, they would probably accuse me of being rude and sulking again. I didn't have the energy to waste time arguing with them. Victoria raised an eyebrow at me. "How was the exam today? You refused to join the team for the sake of studying hard. I'm curious to see just how well you did." I didn't let Victoria's jab get to me. No matter what I did, my sisters would never approve. I pressed my lips together. "I'll do my best. I'll work hard to improve my grades, get into Stanford, and get away from all of you." Madison sneered. Ethan was never the academic type. He didn't do well in his freshman or sophomore years. Now he's cramming at the last minute before graduation. It just looks like he's trying hard. In the end, he'll still rank below Caleb. Caleb smiled and said, "Madison, don't say that. Ethan has been working very hard lately. Even the teachers have praised him. And grades aren't everything, you know?" I gripped my backpack tightly as anger surged through my chest. I struggled to control my emotions. "I'm going back to my room now." The next day, I slept in until I woke up naturally. When I went downstairs for breakfast, the hall was empty, but I didn't pay it any mind. I went back to my room after I finished eating. I opened my phone and glanced at the news about the gaming tournament. As expected, the official announcement for the redemption bracket had been released, just like in my past life. Back then, during the redemption bracket, Victoria had been completely fired up, obsessed with winning. It was the only way to advance and get her revenge on the Sterling family's daughter in the finals. But in my past life, Team Nova's championship win was actually a fluke. The Sterling heiress had withdrawn from the competition at the last critical moment, which was the only reason they had a chance to win. As for why she withdrew, I never found out, not even up to the day I died. Some said it was a sudden illness. Others said her family forced her to go back and take over the family business, but she never came out to clarify. Looking at the game's description, my fingers started to itch. But then, Chloe's voice echoed in my head. I had made a deal with her. Whether I could play games or not depended on my exam results. All right, I'll just have to endure it a little longer. At least until the exam scores are out. I took out my phone and, after much thought, sent Chloe a message on iMessage. "Teacher, I didn't come to the nurse's office after school last week because my sister found out I wasn't coming home on time. I was worried she'd discover my secret hideout, so I stayed away." After sending the message, I stared at the chat window for a long time, but there was no reply. I couldn't resist opening Chloe's Facebook profile. It was completely blank. Does this woman not post on Facebook at all? Strange. On the other side of town, Chloe looked at the message she had received, her beautiful eyes narrowing slightly. "Chloe, who's messaging you?" Chloe immediately locked her screen. Her friend, Tiffany, raised an eyebrow. "From the profile picture, it looks like a boy. It wouldn't happen to be that kid you helped the other day. Ethan, right? You talk too much. I think you're just feeling guilty. You were working overtime at the nurse's office all last week, and then you suddenly stopped. You've been wearing a sour face for days. Did you have a fight with him?" Chloe turned her head, her eyes glinting with a dangerous light. "Don't be curious about my affairs." Chloe took her phone and went out to the balcony. She glanced down at the chat window. In his eyes, the nurse's office was a secret hideout. She smiled unconsciously and opened my Facebook profile. It was mostly just some everyday posts. She scrolled for a while, then suddenly realized she had spent too much time focused on me. Felt like she was losing control. Chloe immediately closed the app and went back into the living room. I waited a whole day but never got a reply. Was she angry? I didn't dare send another message and bother her. I decided to wait until the scores were released on Monday. I spent the entire weekend at home studying. Caleb and my sisters didn't come back. They probably stayed at the training camp. On Monday morning, when I went downstairs, I finally saw Caleb and my sisters. They were laughing and talking amongst themselves, their bond clearly stronger than ever. I said nothing and went straight to the dining room to eat. Victoria's tone was mocking. "Scores come out today, right?" I nodded. "Yes. I told you a long time ago to join the team. With your grades, it's not like you can get into a good university anyway. Instead of wasting time studying, you'd be better off training to become a pro player. With the resources the Hawthorne family can provide, it would only be a matter of time before you became famous. Too bad you didn't cherish the opportunity, so it had to go to Caleb." I replied calmly, "I don't really care." I picked up my breakfast from the kitchen and left the hall. Seeing my indifferent attitude, Victoria was furious. I'll be waiting to see your amazing test scores, huh? Caleb, seeing that I hadn't agreed to join the team, finally breathed a sigh of relief. He knew I had a talent for gaming, and if I joined, his spot would be in jeopardy. But on the surface, he just smiled and said, Victoria, don't be angry. Ethan is just throwing a tantrum. When he agrees to join the team, I'll give my spot to him right away. Victoria nodded in satisfaction. You're still the most sensible one. Caleb's smile stiffened for a second, a deep sense of resentment welling up inside him. He had been practicing desperately all this time just to win Victoria's approval. Unfortunately, it seemed Victoria still thought I was better. Caleb made a silent vow to achieve something great in the game and make Victoria give up on the idea of me joining the team. Victoria's expression was tinged with worry. After all, the redemption bracket was crucial. If they lost, it was all over. Although Caleb was working hard, he simply didn't have the talent. With only a month left until the tournament, Caleb's skills were nowhere near good enough. To beat that girl from the Sterling family, they needed someone with real skill. Right now, I was the only option. But Victoria couldn't bring herself to swallow her pride and ask me. For years, I had been the one timidly fawning over her, and she had grown accustomed to that dynamic. She couldn't adjust so quickly. How long was I going to keep this tantrum up? Was I really trying to force her to bow her head to me? Victoria was stressing out over the competition. Isabella patted her on the shoulder. After the test scores come out, I'll have a serious talk with him. The redemption bracket is too important. Victoria was displeased. In the beginning, it was Ethan who had begged her for ages to teach him how to play. And now he was the one holding all the cards. When had he become so manipulative? If all else fails, we'll have Olivia step in. Ethan can't possibly disrespect Olivia. Caleb listened from the side, feeling incredibly frustrated. He had no intention of giving his spot to me. It was his spot. When I got to school, everyone was talking about the exam results. One of Caleb's followers glanced at me and said loudly, "Someone's been studying so hard lately. I wonder what score they got." I pretended to be calm as I took out my textbook to review, but my heart was pounding. Before long, Mr. Harrison came in with the grade reports, and the class instantly buzzed with excitement. Mr. Harrison tapped his desk. "Everyone quiet down. The results were generally not great this time, so now is not the time to slack off. I want to single out Caleb, who dropped more than 200 places in the rankings." Caleb's face instantly turned pale. He knew he hadn't been at his best lately, but he never expected to do this poorly. Mr. Harrison looked at me and hesitated for a moment. "However, Ethan has improved significantly. Keep up the good work." A follower immediately asked, "Sir, what was Ethan's rank?" "He is now ranked 100th in the grade." As soon as he said that, the classroom erupted. A smile spread across my face. I had actually done it. I was thrilled. Now I could report my results to Chloe. "Sir, I suspect there's something wrong with Ethan's score. It's impossible for him to improve so much in such a short time." After that was said, the classroom fell silent. Nearly everyone turned to look at me, their eyes filled with suspicion. After seeing my rank, Mr. Harrison also had some doubts. But it was true that I had been working very hard lately. Just then, Caleb spoke up weakly, "Sir, Ethan really wanted to get a good score to prove himself. He even made a bet with his family, so please don't doubt his results. This score is really important to him. I'm begging you." His words were beautifully crafted, but I just sneered. His manipulative skills were truly top tier. No wonder I had fallen into his trap in my past life. Sure enough, after hearing that, Mr. Harrison immediately suspected that I had cheated to win the bet. Caleb's follower added fuel to the fire. "Sir, you can't cover for a cheater. Caleb and I have been busy preparing for our family's team competition, and even his scores dropped this much. There's no way Ethan could have improved so dramatically." Follower number 2 quickly added, "Yeah, sir, for the sake of fairness, I think Ethan's score should be nullified." Caleb saw Mr. Harrison hesitate and knew he had believed his words. He knew he had won again. "How dare you try to surpass me? Don't you know the consequences? Ethan Hawthorne, aren't you going to say something to explain yourself?" I felt Mr. Harrison's suspicious gaze on me and said coolly, "I didn't cheat." Caleb quickly interjected, "Sir, I told you he wouldn't cheat. Please don't doubt him. If you nullify his score, it might seem fair to everyone else, but it would really hurt him." Mr. Harrison thought for a moment and said, "Ethan's rank will be temporarily voided until I can investigate this matter thoroughly. If it is confirmed that he cheated, he will face the appropriate punishment." After Mr. Harrison left, the classroom grew noisy again. One of the followers sneered, "I knew there was no way someone could improve that much. So he cheated." A triumphant look appeared in Caleb's eyes. He immediately took out his phone to deliver the good news to Victoria. Victoria, what should we do? Ethan cheated on the exam just to win his bet with you. Now he's going to be disciplined for it. I'm so worried about him. I just opened my book and started studying. I didn't care at all whether my rank was cancelled. Caleb could only influence our homeroom teacher. He couldn't change my SAT scores. But I still felt a pang of disappointment. After all, I had a deal with Chloe that we would play games together if I got into the top 100. But I hadn't been to the nurse's office recently, and Chloe hadn't replied to my last message. I felt a knot in my stomach. I thought I had finally made a friend, but maybe I was just overthinking things. After the morning classes ended, I heard excited shouts from the boys outside the classroom. I looked up and saw that Victoria had arrived. What was she doing here? Caleb, your sister is so beautiful. A proud look crossed Caleb's face as he accepted the small cake Victoria handed him. Victoria, Ethan is in the classroom. Do you want to talk to him? If he apologizes properly and admits to cheating, maybe he won't get disciplined. Victoria glanced at me inside the classroom, but I kept my head down, my eyes fixed on my textbook. I didn't need to guess why Victoria had come to the school. Caleb really couldn't wait to see me humiliated. He stood at the classroom door and said with false sincerity, Ethan, Victoria is here. I pretended not to hear and didn't even glance at Victoria outside. Victoria's expression soured, and the little bit of concern she might have had vanished instantly. Why should she worry about him? She said coldly, I'm going to the office to see the homeroom teacher. Victoria turned and left. Only then did Caleb walk over to my desk with the cake. Ethan, Victoria only brought one cake for me. She probably forgot yours by mistake. I can give you half of mine later. How could I not see that Caleb was just showing off? I was used to it by now. Every time my sisters came to school, they would bring a small gift for Caleb, but never one for me. I used to cry and complain about it. Isabella would say that I didn't get gifts because I was disobedient, but now I couldn't care less about their so-called gifts. My phone rang. I saw that it was a call from Chloe. I immediately took the phone out to the hallway to answer. Hello, teacher. How were your scores? I suddenly felt a lump in my throat. I was ranked 100th, but I think my score was nullified. Hearing this, Chloe's lazy demeanor instantly turned serious. What happened? I had been telling myself not to care, but when Chloe asked about my score, I couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. Just as I was about to answer, someone called my name. Ethan Hawthorne, Mr. Harrison wants to see you in his office. I pressed my lips together. I have to go to the office. I'll talk to you later. After hanging up, I went straight to the homeroom teacher's office. When I walked in, I saw Victoria was there too, and the atmosphere was tense. Victoria spoke with a cold face. Ethan, I can't believe you would cheat just to win. Do you have any idea what that means? I wasn't surprised at all. I knew Victoria wouldn't believe me. My eyes were clear and direct. I didn't cheat. Ethan, the facts are right in front of you, and you're still lying. Based on your usual grades and your behavior at home, there's no way your score could have improved this much. Besides, you have a clear motive to cheat. Just admit your mistake now, and maybe the school won't discipline you. I let out a cold laugh. Can any of that be used as evidence to prove I cheated? Victoria stood up angrily and shouted, Look at what you've become! Seeing that Victoria looked like she was about to get physical, Mr. Harrison quickly stepped in. Please, speak to the child calmly. Victoria, frustrated, said to the teacher, I'm sorry. Ethan cheated because he was having a tantrum with his family. Let's just do as we discussed. Have him write a self-criticism letter and apologize publicly to the whole school, and we can avoid a formal disciplinary action. Mr. Harrison sighed. All right, that can work. I hope Ethan can learn from this and change his ways. After all, with graduation so close, a mark on his record would be a shame. I stared down at the floor. My already cold heart sank even further. With just a few words, they had decided my guilt. No one had ever believed me. Ethan, you've completely disgraced the Hawthorne family. How could I have such a morally corrupt brother? I'm ashamed to even admit we're related. Do you think I want to be a Hawthorne? Ethan, say that again, I dare you. Victoria's face was ashen as she glared at me. There's no need to be so harsh with the student. You'll frighten him. An elderly man with a kind face walked in. Mr. Harrison quickly said, Principal Miller, what brings you here? I heard a senior made significant progress but was accused of cheating, and it's causing quite a stir. I came to see what's going on. Victoria said irritably, Principal, there's no need to investigate. Ethan cheated to get that good score. If he refuses to apologize and admit his mistake, just give him the disciplinary action. The principal looked at me gently. Young man, There's actually a very simple way to verify whether you cheated or not. We can have you take another test right here under all of our supervision. Are you willing to be tested? I looked at the principal. I accept, but I have one condition. If it's proven that I didn't cheat, will the people who slandered me have to apologize publicly? Victoria sneered. Fine, let's see what kind of score you can get. Soon, Mr. Harrison handed me a test. I'll time you. I sat down, took the pen, and began the test. The office was silent, with everyone watching me. The seconds ticked by. Caleb was curious about what was happening in the office. He walked over and saw me taking a test, and a bad feeling washed over him. He went straight to Victoria's side. Victoria, what are you all doing? Is Ethan retaking the test? Victoria scoffed. That's right. He refuses to admit he cheated, so this time, we'll make him lose so badly he'll have no choice but to accept it. Caleb immediately came to my side. Ethan, don't be stubborn. We all believe you. You don't have to force yourself like this. I didn't say a word, ignoring Caleb completely. I wouldn't let this guy disrupt my focus. Seeing that his words had no effect on me, Caleb bit his lip and looked at Victoria. Victoria, Ethan is still mad at me. Victoria immediately grew angry. Ethan, Caleb is talking to you. Can't you hear him? I looked up. I'm taking a test. Can't you see that? Victoria was taken aback. Caleb is giving you an easy way out. You should take it before you embarrass yourself later. Caleb, please don't disturb Ethan while he's taking the test. Whatever you have to say can wait until he's finished. Mr. Harrison couldn't stand it anymore. He could clearly see that I was doing well on the test. It was very likely I hadn't cheated. Caleb was resentful. Sir, I didn't mean anything by it, but he just doesn't want me to prove my so-called abilities. He can't accept that I'm better than him and won't allow it to happen. Caleb stood to the side, watching with suspicion. I probably wouldn't get a good score, right? But seeing how much I had changed recently, he felt a strange sense of unease. Time was up. Mr. Harrison immediately took the test and, along with other teachers, quickly graded it. He announced excitedly, "The results are in." Caleb looked over, his heart filled with malice, hoping I had failed miserably. Victoria said coldly, "Sir, if the score is bad, don't even say it. It's too embarrassing." No, Ethan did exceptionally well. In fact, this test was more difficult than the monthly exam, and his score is even better. Hearing this, the weight in my chest finally lifted. I pressed my lips together, a smile spreading across my face. Victoria's composure cracked, and she snatched the test to look at it herself. The score didn't lie. I really had done well. Caleb stood on his tiptoes to see the score, and he was instantly consumed with jealousy. When did I become so capable? This is impossible. The kind-faced principal smiled and said, "The truth is clear. Ethan achieved this remarkable progress through his own hard work." Mr. Harrison nodded. Ethan has indeed been very diligent lately. Victoria's expression shifted through a rainbow of emotions before she finally put the test back on the desk. "I can't believe you really didn't cheat." At that moment, she suddenly felt like the person standing before her was a stranger. The principal cleared his throat. "Since the truth is out, the people who slandered Ethan should apologize." Caleb's face quickly turned awkward. I was surprised to hear the principal bring that up. I looked at Victoria and Caleb across from me, my expression completely serene. Victoria's expression, however, became extremely unnatural. In the past, I was always the one chasing after her, never doing anything to make her uncomfortable. As the older sister, she was used to being on a pedestal. Now, being asked to apologize was worse than death for her. Caleb quickly chimed in, "Ethan, when did you get so good? You must have been studying secretly at home. I had no idea. When you got such a good score and were suspected of cheating, Victoria came to the school right away to help you. She really cares about you." After Caleb gave her an out, Victoria said coolly, "Caleb, stop talking. Some ungrateful brats will never understand." I looked at her with a half-smile. That's right, Victoria came to school right away. And then what? She told the teacher I definitely cheated and tried to force me to write a confession and apologize in front of the whole school. Is that the kind of caring you want for yourself? Caleb was instantly speechless. Victoria, embarrassed and angry, retorted, "Ethan, it was you who studied hard in secret without telling us, which is why I misunderstood and thought you cheated. Was it fun for you to play this game, just because your grades improved?" The principal looked at Mr. Harrison and spoke again. "Who were the ones who first accused Ethan of cheating? Bring them here to apologize." Mr. Harrison immediately sent for the two followers. The followers, still unaware of the situation, thought I had really cheated and said smugly, "Sir, we told you he cheated to get that score. Has the investigation confirmed it? Mr. Harrison nodded. Yes, the investigation is complete. Ethan did not cheat. You two need to apologize to him right now. The followers' faces showed pure shock. He didn't cheat? How is that possible? Caleb immediately played the good guy. Ethan really didn't cheat. I told you guys not to spread rumors. Now, you should apologize to him. With that one sentence, he completely absolved himself of any blame. The followers reluctantly apologized to me. We're sorry. We were wrong. We shouldn't have spread rumors. Mr. Harrison looked at me. Do you have any other requests? I shook my head. No, Mr. Harrison said with satisfaction. Ethan has been working very hard lately. However, Caleb, your grades have dropped significantly. Caleb felt humiliated, especially since it was happening right after I had achieved such a good score. It was a disgrace. Caleb, his eyes red, replied, I was just distracted. It won't happen again. Victoria also felt she had lost face. What's the use of good grades? When you get famous from gaming, the money you earn will be far more important than some test score. Caleb actually felt the same way. Mr. Harrison, on the other hand, was annoyed that a guardian would say such a thing. He looked at Caleb. You should learn from Ethan's example. Caleb bit his lip hard, then turned and ran out of the office. Victoria glared at me. So you got one good score. Is that worth showing off in front of Caleb? His grades dropped because he was focused on the team. You, who have contributed nothing, have no right to be proud. I raised an eyebrow. Was I showing off? The principal spoke up again. I distinctly heard the teacher say those things. Ethan didn't say a word. As a guardian, you really shouldn't be so biased. Victoria was speechless for a moment, then replied dryly, I'm not biased. Ethan has always been this way. After saying that, she went out to chase after Caleb. I turned to the principal. Thank you, sir. No need to thank me. You have the ability and you earned this. I need to have a meeting with the teachers and emphasize this point. I left the office. After a few steps, I saw Chloe standing in the hallway, leaning against the wall in her white coat, as if waiting for someone. Our eyes met, and my heart inexplicably started beating faster. Chloe stood up straight, her expression cool. What was the outcome? Of course, I won. The principal had me take another test, and I did even better than on the monthly exam. I lifted my head, a little proud. At this moment, seeing Chloe, the joy of my victory finally felt real. Chloe lowered her gaze slightly, her voice unhurried. Did they apologize? I paused. Was she talking about Caleb and Victoria? I shook my head. Only the scapegoats apologized, not the ones behind it. But I don't care. The public humiliation was satisfying enough. I'm still really happy. A smile touched Chloe's cool features. She said, Come find me after school. Then she turned and left. After school, I went straight to the nurse's office. Chloe was sitting in her chair and glanced back at me. Is your homework done? The teacher told us to review our mistakes, and I've finished. I didn't have many mistakes, and the ones I did make were on topics I hadn't reviewed or mastered yet. Chloe pointed to the computer next to her. Do you have a gaming account? I do, but I want to create a new one. We can both start fresh. Chloe hadn't planned on using her main account to play with me anyway. I launched the game and randomly chose a name, WYLB's Love. Once I got to the character screen, I looked at Chloe. What's your name? Let's add each other as friends. I snuck a peek at her game screen, WYLB's Affection. The name looked familiar. I instantly remembered something. In her past life, she had an online romance with someone whose name was also like this. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Accept the friend request. My face flushed and I quickly accepted. Looking at the character on the screen, I felt a surge of excitement. But in my past life, I didn't meet my online partner at this time. Maybe it was just a coincidence. I stole a glance at her. Why did you pick that name? Chloe's hand paused. Just picked it randomly. I nodded. Maybe it really was just a coincidence. After we both logged in, we went straight to the newbie zone to do quests. I could tell Chloe wasn't a complete beginner. She was probably on a new account to play with me. She didn't ask many questions, but her gameplay was so similar to that person's. I couldn't help but ask, Teacher, is your main account's name also like this? Yes. So, is today the first time you've used this new account with this name? Chloe looked up at me. Yes. Why? Quickly looked down, my face flushing. Nothing. I was conflicted. Was she that person or not? But the timing didn't match when I met her in my past life. In my past life, I met that person after the redemption bracket had ended. She was the one who taught me how to improve my skills, which allowed me to fight my way to the finals. Although I never met my online partner in person, not even before I died, I was still incredibly grateful for her help when I was homeless and at my lowest point. My mind started to wander. After we finally finished the quests and left the newbie zone for the next area, we ran into another team. When I saw their team name, a sarcastic smile spread across my face. It was Victoria and Caleb. Chloe's eyes narrowed slightly. Should we engage? Engage with what? We're on new accounts with no gear. We'd just be feeding them kills. Even though I said that I was tempted, Chloe said, we'll wait until they're almost done with their quest. When they're low on health, we'll steal their boss. Hearing that, I was instantly interested. We hid nearby and watched as Victoria led her team to fight the monster. It was a world boss, so it wasn't easy to defeat and required team coordination. By the time they were close to succeeding, they were all low on health. Normally, no one would dare try to steal a boss from a famous team like theirs. But there were always exceptions. I had written a guide for this boss before, so I knew the perfect moment to strike. Chloe and I coordinated perfectly, swooping in at the last second to land the final blow. We successfully stole the boss kill. The World Chat channel lit up with an announcement. Congratulations to WILB's Love for slaying the Peach Blossom Springs world boss. When Victoria saw the result, she furiously cursed into her headset. What the hell are you all doing? How could you let someone steal the boss? Caleb added fuel to the fire. They look like new accounts. Don't they know who we are? How dare they steal our boss? Victoria was livid. Kill them. But a moment later, Victoria's screen turned gray. Immediately after, the rest of her team members fell to the ground, defeated. Victoria stared at the name, WLB's Love, feeling that their playstyle was strangely familiar, a lot like mine. Could it be Ethan, deliberately creating a new account to steal her boss? No, Ethan shouldn't be this good yet. Over here, Chloe and I had not only stolen the boss but also collected the valuable loot it dropped. But none of that compared to the sheer joy of crushing Victoria and Caleb. We played for a little while longer until the takeout arrived. Chloe stopped. Let's eat first. I saw that there was also a small cake, the same brand as the one Caleb had received earlier that day. I glanced at her. Why did you buy a cake? Consider it a reward for your good grades. You didn't embarrass me. I was suddenly touched. Chloe's expression became a little unnatural, and she added coolly, anyway, it just came with the takeout order. I took the small cake. This one was just for me. I took a bite, my eyelashes lowered, unable to calm the fluttering in my heart. Chloe watched me as I sat with my head down, silent for a long moment. She swallowed. Was the cake bad? Shouldn't be. It was supposed to be the most popular one. I nodded. It's delicious. It's been a long time since someone bought a cake just for me. Ever since my parents passed away, I had never celebrated my birthday. My sisters never remembered that I also liked this cake. There was never a piece for me. Chloe's gaze fell on me. You don't celebrate your birthday? So you don't eat cake? I was silent for a moment. My parents died in a car accident on my birthday, so I stopped celebrating it after that. It's the anniversary of their death. Every year on that day, the atmosphere at home is terrible, and I don't feel like I have the right to ask to celebrate. Chloe's heart felt like it had been struck by something heavy, making it hard to breathe. She couldn't stop herself from turning her head away, her lips pressed into a thin, cold line. Her face was stern, filled with anger and guilt. Her hands moved unconsciously, and she gently wrapped her arms around me. Sensing the shift in mood, I looked up and pretended not to care. Actually, I don't mind not celebrating. I'm not in the mood for it anyway. It's the anniversary of my parents' death, so what right do I have to celebrate my birthday? Chloe suppressed the emotions churning inside her. She looked at my pale, quiet face. I was as docile as a small animal, staying still without making a sound, almost fading into the background. Such a sensible demeanor was both infuriating and heartbreaking. Her voice was a little hoarse. It's getting late. You should go home soon. A kid like you shouldn't be wandering around outside. I know. Can I still come here to find you in the future? I looked at her, my eyes filled with uncertainty. Chloe's eyes were as dark as ink. You trust me that much? Aren't you afraid I'll deceive you? Because I have nothing worth deceiving. I looked at her with complete honesty. Teacher, you're pretty much the only friend I have right now. Chloe's gaze faltered. A friend? She curved her lips into a slight smile, then put on a serious expression. Don't just trust people so easily in the future, especially not women. I know. I'm leaving now. After saying goodbye, I left the nurse's office with my backpack. After I left, Chloe remained seated in her chair for a long time. She saw the cake on the table and was reminded of the large, smashed cake at the scene of the car accident all those years ago. A dull ache began to throb in her head. Since that accident, she had never eaten cake again. After a long while, she received a phone call. Miss, young Master Ethan has arrived home safely. Only then did Chloe hang up the phone, her shadow stretching long in the setting sun. When I returned to the Hawthorne estate, I saw Isabella sitting on the sofa, clearly waiting for me. I said with a blank face, "Isabella." Isabella looked up and saw her distant, stubborn brother, unsure of what to do. When she heard about my significant grade improvement, she had suspected I had cheated. But she never imagined my score was actually real. Isabella's tone was complicated. "You're back so late. Were you at the study hall again?" "Yes." Isabella sighed softly. "Isn't it better to study at home than in a public study hall? It's complicated out there, you never know who you'll run into. Don't do your homework in a study hall anymore. It's not safe." I pressed my lips together. There it was again, making decisions for me. Isabella continued, "Because Caleb's grades dropped so much this time, I've hired a private tutor for him. You should join the sessions too. If there's anything Caleb doesn't understand, you can help him. You're classmates, after all. And when he's absent, you can take notes on the important points for him." My eyes filled with scorn. So that was it. The reason she wanted me to do my homework at home was for Caleb. I straightened my back. "I refuse. Ethan, I know that Victoria was wrong at school today, and you've proven your abilities. But we are still a family. Caleb's grades dropped because he's been preparing for the team competition. Since you're not participating in the tournament, you should contribute by helping him improve his grades. You have experience, after all." I found it utterly laughable. "I refuse." Just those 2 words. Even explaining felt like a waste of breath. Victoria stormed out, pointing a finger at my face and yelling, "Ethan, have you no conscience? All these years, you've lived off the Hawthorne family, eaten our food, and you haven't contributed a single thing. How dare you?" I found it ironic. I replied calmly, "Fine. Starting today, I will move out of the Hawthorne estate, and I won't use another cent of the family's money." Victoria sneered, "Fine. Get out right now. I'd like to see how you survive without the Hawthorne family." Isabella couldn't stand it anymore. "That's enough." "Victoria, what are you saying?" "Isabella, look, he's the one who said he's leaving this family. He's the one abandoning us." Victoria's eyes were red, her emotions running high. She had already swallowed her pride today, and Ethan still wanted to leave. Did he want her, his older sister, to get on her knees and beg for forgiveness before he'd be satisfied? Caleb quickly came over to play peacemaker. "Victoria, don't be angry. Ethan just doesn't want to tutor me, that's all. It's fine, we have a private tutor, and I'm already very grateful. Really, Victoria, let's just drop it. Let's go. I have some gameplay questions to ask you anyway." Caleb turned back to Isabella. "Isabella, we'll be going now. Go ahead." Seeing how sensible Caleb was being, Isabella's heart softened a little more. Isabella looked at me with disappointment in her eyes. "Don't take what Victoria said to heart. You'll always be a part of the Hawthorne family." I replied calmly, "I think it would be better if I moved out." Isabella's expression changed. "Ethan, what do you want? What will it take for you to be like you were before? Can't we just live happily together as a family, like before?" I tugged at the corner of my mouth. That was impossible now. I lifted my head and looked at Isabella standing before me. She was just as I remembered, with cool eyes, a poised stance, and a way of speaking that carried an unquestionable certainty. When I was little, I loved clinging to her because she would always clean up my messes, gently pat my head, and say, "Don't be afraid, Ethan, your big sister is here." But later, that same sister who used to protect me was the one who pushed me into the coldest, darkest place. "Isabella," I heard my own voice, calm to the point of being cold, "the family you're talking about has only consisted of you, our sisters and Caleb for a long time now. As for me, I'm just a tool you pull out whenever you want to lecture someone about rules, gratitude, or conscience." A flicker of shock crossed Isabella's eyes, as if she never expected me to be so blunt. You all keep telling me to be like I was before," I interrupted her. "But has any of you ever asked me if I want to go back to how things were?" The living room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I heard faint footsteps from the top of the stairs and knew, without looking, that it was most likely Victoria and Madison, listening in. I continued, "The old me thought that if I were just a little more sensible, a little more obedient, a little more yielding to Caleb, you would all finally see me again. But what was the result? When I was drowning, you were asking me to admit I was wrong. When I had a high fever, you were taking him to the hospital. When I got a good grade, your first reaction was to accuse me of cheating. Even when I said I didn't want to join the team, you all just thought I was throwing a tantrum." Isabella's face grew paler with each word. It was probably the first time she had ever heard me lay it all out so completely. Ethan, that's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I looked at her, suddenly feeling exhausted. You told me to do my homework at home so I could tutor Caleb. You worried about me being unsafe outside because you were afraid I'd slip out of the family's control. Every single one of you claims you're doing what's best for me, but every single thing you do ends with me having to make way for Caleb. That's not true, Isabella instinctively retorted, but her voice was much weaker than before. We just feel that Caleb needs more care. So I deserve to be ignored, is that it? She was completely speechless. I looked down and began putting my textbooks into my backpack, one by one. The sound of the zipper closing was unnaturally loud in the silent living room. Isabella, I'm not throwing a tantrum, and I'm not sulking. I slung the backpack over my shoulder and looked up at her. I just finally understand that I can't place my hopes in any of you anymore. With that, I walked around her and headed for the stairs. Suddenly, Isabella's trembling voice came from behind me. Ethan, I paused for a second. Do you really not want us anymore? I closed my eyes. I felt a faint tug at my heart, but it was no longer enough to cause any significant ripples. It's not that I don't want you, I said without turning back. It's that you all stopped wanting me a long time ago. I went back to my room, locked the door, and stood with my back against it for a long time. Outside, the night was dark. I hadn't turned on any lights in the room. Only a sliver of moonlight peeked through the curtains, casting a slanted beam on the floor. I put down my backpack, took out my phone, and saw the quiet notification bar. There was only one message, from Chloe, sent a few hours ago. Homework done. I stared at the words for a few seconds before my fingers slowly started to type. Finished. After a moment's thought, I sent another message. I just had a fight with my family. After sending it, I didn't expect an immediate reply, but my phone buzzed almost instantly. Did you win or lose? I was taken aback for a second, then looked down and let out a small laugh. I don't know, she replied again. You didn't cry, did you? I stared at the screen, a sudden sting in my nose. No. There was a pause for a few seconds, then another message came through. Come to the nurse's office after school tomorrow. I stared at the words, and a tight knot somewhere deep inside me slowly began to loosen. Okay. The next morning, when I came downstairs, the living room was unusually quiet. Isabella sat on the sofa, an untouched cup of coffee in front of her. Victoria was leaning on the other side, with dark circles under her eyes as if she hadn't slept well. Madison had a sour look on her face. She opened her mouth as if to say something when she saw me, but ended up just scoffing. Caleb was nowhere to be seen. I didn't ask and went straight to the dining room. I had just picked up a piece of toast when I heard Isabella speak from behind me. Ethan, I'll drive you to school today. I paused for a moment, then said calmly, No, thank you. I'll go by myself. Victoria immediately frowned. How long are you going to keep this up? I turned to look at her. Victoria, I've already made myself very clear. I'm not throwing a tantrum. Perhaps because I was so calm, Victoria's aggressive tone softened a bit. She stared at me, as if searching my face for any trace of the old, sulking boy, but found none. I finished my breakfast, slung my backpack on, and walked out. As I passed through the living room, Isabella suddenly stood up. Then I'll have the driver take you. That won't be necessary either. My pace didn't falter. I won't be riding in a Hawthorne family car anymore. After I said that, there was a noticeable moment of silence behind me. As I walked out of the mansion, the morning breeze was cool, clearing my head. I didn't look back, not even once. At school, my mind wasn't on my textbooks all day. It wasn't because of the Hawthorns, but because I was going to see Chloe in the afternoon. This feeling of anticipation was strange, like a window had quietly opened in my gray life, letting in a breeze that was so light, yet impossible to ignore. The moment the final bell rang, I packed my bag and headed to the nurse's office. When I pushed the door open, she was sitting at her desk reviewing a file, her white coat buttoned to the top. Her profile looked a little cool and distant in the evening sun. Hearing the noise, she glanced up. You're here. Yeah. I walked over, placed my backpack in its usual spot, and was about to sit down when I saw a steaming hot dinner and a glass of warm milk on the desk. I froze for a second. What are you looking at? She said, her tone casual. I ordered too much takeout. I pressed my lips together, not pointing out her flimsy excuse, and just said quietly, Thank you. She glanced at me, then suddenly reached out and gently touched my forehead with her fingertips. No fever today. Her hand was still cool, but I felt as if I'd been burned, and I froze on the spot. Sit down and eat. She pulled her hand back as if nothing had happened. And while you're at it, tell me about the fight last night. I looked down, opened the food container, and after a moment of silence, I told her everything that had happened. After I finished, her face remained expressionless, but her eyes grew colder. So you're planning to move out of the Hawthorne estate now? Yeah. My grip on my fork tightened. It might not be easy before the SATs, but I'll find a way. At the very least, I'm definitely leaving after graduation. Chloe leaned back in her chair and watched me quietly for a moment. And money? I can earn it myself. I paused. Tournament winnings, scholarships, a part-time job. There will be a way. The Hawthorns won't let you go easily. I know. You're still in school. I know that too. She suddenly let out a soft laugh. It wasn't mocking. It was more like she was amused by my stubborn determination to push forward despite knowing the difficulties ahead. You seem to know a lot. She pushed a file across the desk to me. Then you might as well know about this too. I looked down and froze completely. It was a lawyer's business card, and underneath it were several printed documents clearly outlining the legal steps I could take. My fingertips trembled. You, don't look at me like that. She twirled her pen nonchalantly. You want to leave, don't you? Then don't just talk about it. Evidence, procedures, guardianship changes, financial independence, all of these things need to be prepared in advance. I felt a lump in my throat and could only ask in a low voice after a long moment, "Why are you helping me?" Her pen stopped twirling. The room was quiet. The light from outside was slowly dimming, softening the usually sharp contours of her profile. "Because I can't stand to see it," she said. I stared at her, stunned. As if that answer wasn't enough, she added, "And also because you're worth it." My heart suddenly felt like it had been gently squeezed. In that instant, I was almost speechless. It wasn't that people hadn't told me, "You're a good kid," or "You need to be sensible," or "You should do this," but no one had ever told me so directly. You're worth it. Worth being believed, worth being protected, worth having better things. I lowered my head and blinked hard, forcing back the stinging sensation in my eyes. Chloe, if, in the future, I really have nothing left, my voice was very soft, can I still come find you? The moment I asked, I felt ridiculous. I had just resolved not to depend on anyone, yet here I was, already trying to cling to this small bit of warmth from her. Chloe looked at me, her gaze deep. After a few seconds, she said, "Ethan Hawthorne, yeah, you've got it wrong." She leaned forward slightly and tapped me lightly on the forehead. "It's not that you come to me when you have nothing left. It's that you can come to me anytime." I covered the spot she had tapped, staring at her blankly. She looked away, the tips of her ears turning a little red. "Eat first. After you're done, organize all the evidence you can think of. I'm taking you to meet someone tonight." "Who?" "A lawyer." I was stunned for a few seconds, then it hit me, and my heart started pounding. "Tonight? What else?" She raised an eyebrow. "You want to wait until after your exams to come crying to me that it's too late?" Quickly shook my head. That night, for the first time, I didn't go back to the Hawthorne estate. Instead, I went with Chloe to a law firm. The lawyer, Ms. Davis, was a sharp, capable-looking woman. After hearing my story, she didn't show any of the doubt or pity I was used to from others. She just asked calmly, "What is the outcome you want?" I was silent for a long time before I finally said, "I want to leave the Hawthorne family. I want to get back what belongs to me, and then have nothing more to do with them." Ms. Davis nodded. "Then we'll need evidence." I told her everything I could think of from the past few years. Being locked in the dark room, being slapped, being left alone with a fever, the constant psychological pressure, the slander on the school forum, the attempts to force me to comply with the family's arrangements, and more. As I spoke, a strange feeling came over me. Before, all this injustice had been bottled up inside, making me feel dirty and pathetic. But now, as I laid it all out, turning it into a clear list of facts and evidence, I realized for the first time, it wasn't that I was too dramatic or too difficult. They were the ones who were truly in the wrong. It was very late when we left the law firm. The night wind was cool on my face, but I felt a lightness in my chest. Chloe was standing under a streetlight, looking down at her phone, her shadow stretching long behind her. I walked over and said quietly, "Thank you for today." She looked up at me. "Just a thank you?" I was taken aback. She put her phone away and said coolly, "If you really want to thank me, then do well on your SATs. Don't let all my effort go to waste." I couldn't help but smile. "I know, teacher." She watched me smile, her expression faltering for a second before she looked away. "And one more thing, if you're going to be home late in the future, let me know in advance." I froze. "Let you know? Who else?" Her tone was even. "If the Hawthorns kidnap you on your way home, I'll have to come bail you out. It's a hassle." A warmth spread through my chest, and I answered softly, "Okay." The days that followed felt like my life had suddenly switched to a completely different track. During the day, I crammed at school, and my grades became more and more stable. After school, I'd go to the nurse's office to do homework, organize evidence, and play duo-queue games with Chloe. Meanwhile, Ms. Davis was making progress, securing surveillance footage from the Hawthorne estate, my medical diagnoses, the forum records, and even a clear video of Madison slapping me from the nurse's office security camera. And at the Hawthorne estate, they finally started to realize something was wrong. The first to crack was Victoria's esports team. With the redemption bracket approaching, Caleb's skills were nowhere near good enough for the main roster. Victoria was frantic and came to the school to corner me several times. "Ethan," she stopped me at the school gate, her expression grim. "The team roster has to be submitted soon. You're coming back to the training camp with me." I stopped and looked at her calmly. "I've told you before, I'm not participating. Do you have to cause trouble right now?" she said, suppressing her anger. "This is the Hawthorne family's team, not a game. Didn't you used to want to compete with me more than anything?" I almost had to laugh. "Victoria, that was before." Victoria stared hard at me, as if she was truly understanding for the first time what before really meant. "Do you hate us that much?" "I don't hate you," I said calmly. "I just don't want any of it anymore." The color drained from her face. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind me. "You're in the way." Victoria looked up to see Chloe standing beside me, a light-colored trench coat worn over her white lab coat, her expression as cold as frost. "You again." Victoria clearly remembered her, and her tone was hostile. "This is a Hawthorne family matter." "Oh," Chloe nodded. "In that case, your Hawthorne family matter is preventing my student from going home." "Why you?" "And another thing," Chloe said, giving Victoria a slow, deliberate look. "If you continue to harass him, I won't hesitate to have my lawyer speak with you." Victoria's expression changed. "A lawyer?" I didn't explain. I just stood beside Chloe with my backpack on, feeling for the first time what it was really like to have someone stand up for me. Victoria's gaze darted between Chloe and me, as if she had suddenly realized something. Her face grew even darker. "Ethan, are you really going to go against your family like this? All for an outsider?" I laughed. "Victoria, you've got it wrong." I looked at her and said, enunciating every word, "It's not that I'm going against my family for an outsider. It's that you all turned me into an outsider first, for Caleb." When Victoria left that day, her retreating figure looked defeated, almost stumbling. I stood where I was, feeling no sense of triumph, only the exhaustion of a battle finally over. I turned my head to look at Chloe and said softly, "Thank you." She looked down at me. "You've thanked me 3 times today. So, no more thanks?" "That works too." A small smile touched her lips. "Try phrasing it differently." "Like what? For example?" She paused, a rare hint of amusement in her eyes. "You could say you can't live without me." My ears instantly burned, and I opened my mouth but couldn't get any words out. She seemed to be in a good mood watching me, and she reached out to ruffle my hair. "Let's go, kid." My heart was beating impossibly fast. On the day of the redemption bracket, the Hawthorne team lost, just as expected. Caleb was forced into the lineup, but his gameplay was atrocious, and the entire team's coordination fell apart. After the match, Victoria smashed her keyboard in the locker room, and the internet exploded with criticism. Terms like nepotism, freeloader brother, and team royalty shot to the top of the trending topics on Twitter. At the same time, even bigger news came from Ms. Davis. She had found issues in some of Caleb's early medical records, implicating the Hawthorne's private doctor in exaggerating his condition and misleading his guardians. More importantly, by digging through old files, they discovered that Caleb had known for years that his supposedly critical illness was just a chronic issue, nowhere near severe enough to warrant the entire family revolving around him. But he never clarified the truth. Instead, he used this fragile persona to repeatedly crush me. When this evidence came to light, the Hawthorne family descended into true chaos for the first time. Isabella called me over a dozen times, but I didn't answer a single one. The day my eldest sister, Olivia, flew back from Europe, she came straight to the school to find me. She stood at the base of the academic building, dressed in a sharply tailored black suit, her eyes as cold as ice. People passing by stole glances at her, but she only stared intently at me. "Ethan, come home with me." I looked at her and was suddenly reminded of my past life, of the same look in her eyes when she threw me out of the house. "And if I don't?" Her face darkened. "Don't force my hand." "How are you going to force me?" I asked calmly. "Like you did before? Lock me up, or have me committed to a mental institution?" Olivia's pupils contracted sharply. She clearly never expected me to say that. Just then, Chloe and Ms. Davis walked over from a short distance away. Ms. Davis handed a document to my eldest sister, her tone professional and calm. Ms. Hawthorne, this is a copy of the application for a restraining order and a guardianship dispute. Until a decision is reached, please refrain from any form of threat, forced removal, or psychological pressure against my client. Otherwise, we will pursue legal action. For the first time, Olivia's expression truly changed. She looked from the document to me, as if finally realizing that I wasn't just throwing a tantrum. I was genuinely, step by step, preparing to sever all ties with the Hawthorne family. Ethan, her voice was unsteady for the first time, do you really have to take it this far? I looked at her and suddenly felt a sense of pity. I'm not the one who took it this far, I said. You all are the ones who pushed me here, step by step. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I didn't look at her again and turned to leave with Chloe. Only after we had walked a good distance did I let out a long breath. Nervous? Chloe asked. A little, I admitted honestly. She hummed in response, then suddenly reached out and took my wrist. How about now? I looked down at her hand holding mine. Her fingers were long and slender, her palm cool, but her grip was steady. It felt like something warm and gentle had enveloped my heart. Much better, I said. On the day my SATs ended, I didn't go back to the Hawthorne estate. I moved into a short-term rental apartment Chloe had found for me. I didn't have much, just a suitcase and a few books. The Hawthornes caused a scene many times after that. My sisters came to find me one by one. They cried, they apologized, and even Olivia lowered her head and said that if I was willing to come back, everything the family owned would still be mine. But I never once looked back. Later, the full truth came out. Caleb's forged medical records, his use of ghostwriters for his schoolwork, his deliberate framing of me, and his manipulation of the Hawthorne family's emotions using his deceased father's name were all exposed. He was disciplined by the school, permanently kicked off the team, and the Hawthornes had no reason to keep him around anymore. The 6 Hawthorne sisters' failed attempt to win back their brother became the biggest joke in our social circle. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. I got into Stanford, and on the day I received my acceptance letter, Chloe bought me a huge cake. It wasn't part of the takeout order, nor was it something she just picked up. She had personally stood in line to buy it. She placed the cake on the table, lit the candles, and looked at me. Make a wish. The candlelight reflected in her eyes, making them unbelievably gentle. I stared at the flickering flame and suddenly remembered how, for so long, I had felt I didn't deserve to celebrate my birthday, didn't deserve to be happy, didn't deserve to be loved. But now, I was sitting in a bright room, across from Chloe. Turns out people really can have a new beginning. I closed my eyes and made a heartfelt wish. After I blew out the candles, she didn't immediately make a sharp-tongued comment like she usually would. Instead, she just watched me quietly for a long time. Her gaze made me a little uncomfortable. What is it? She spoke suddenly. Ethan Hawthorne. Yeah. I don't want to just be your nurse, your teacher, or your friend anymore. My heart leaped, and I looked up at her almost instinctively. She stood in the warm yellow light, her features clear, her voice soft but without a trace of hesitation. I like you. It's not a whim, and it's not out of pity. She looked at me, her eyes holding something deep and profound. I've liked you for a very long time. I stared at her, stunned, my throat tight. I couldn't form a complete sentence. She took a step closer and asked in a low voice, Ethan, what about you? My eyes suddenly burned. All the years of injustice, fear, and loneliness that had weighed me down seemed to be gently lifted away in that single moment. I looked at her and said in a hoarse voice, I like you too. The next second, she leaned down and kissed me. It was a light, restrained kiss, carrying the faint, cool scent that always clung to her. When her lips met mine, I froze for an instant. But soon, I raised my hand and gently gripped the hem of her shirt, not pulling away. Then, I closed my eyes and clumsily but earnestly returned her kiss. Outside, the night was quiet, and inside, the candlelight was soft. This time, I had finally caught the love that was meant for me.